Welcome to the Blend Podcast.
Hey there, and welcome back to the Blend Podcast. Glad to have you with us. Today we get to speak to Katie and Baxter, who started Dog Friendly Percher, Missing Pets Percher, a conversation that crosses mental health, dogs, hope, and this new online world of connectivity. Again, we're recording in the cafe, so a bit of background noise. Some of it caused by Baxter trying to be quiet and eating his dog treat in the background, but he was well behaved. Gather around the campfire and have a listen. Welcome to the podcast, Katie.
Oh, thank you for inviting us.
It's lovely to have you, and it's you've been on my A-list for a while, and a welcome as well, Baxter. If you don't know, Baxter is a wee little, what type of dog is he?
He's a Lhasa Apso.
Lhasa Apso, that's joining us in this podcast, and he's very much part of the story. So
It wouldn't be dog friendly without Baxter.
How do you like your coffee?
Lattes or toffee nut macchiatos here. I've got a bit of a sweet tooth, so they're the favourites.
It's been interesting realising, that people have this sort of treat coffee and then a standard coffee in their life.
Yes, that's definitely the way it is, like my treat coffee.
No, great. And you've been coming to us for how long?
Oh, quite a while now, at least 3 years, if not longer, I think.
Really?
Yeah, so quite a long time. Just as soon as we realised you were dog friendly, basically.
Yeah, well, it's interesting because in the early days we used to get to know our customers through their drink. So say that's flat white lady or that's toffee macchiato lady, skinny, whatever. We just but then we started getting to know people by that's Baxter's owner, or we started getting to know dogs to identify.
Oh, you definitely do. You get such regular dogs that come to Blend, and it's like that when we visit. We're like, oh, that's such and such mum, or there's such and such dad. You totally know the dog owners as well now every time you visit. So
tell me your story. Tell me your journey. How did you get here? How did you come across us?
We just heard from a fellow dog owner that you welcome dogs, and we just kind of had to check you out because we love coffee, we love dogs, we love cake. So the perfect combination perfect combination here, to be quite honest.
The perfect storm, absolutely. Coffee, dog, and cake, right? Yep.
Yes, ticks all boxes.
And why? You have a really interesting story. So I'll just let you tell me what the past, say, 4 years have looked like for you.
Surreal. I think that's the best way I can describe it. I never thought when I started up Dog Friendly Percher it would get to where it is today. It just started out as it was like a positive outlet for me. I think that's the best way I can describe it. It was just a way to share just mine and Baxter's adventures, and it was my little bit of positivity and kind of putting it out there. It just felt good for me in a sense.
Can I backtrack you a little? What is Dog Friendly Percher for those who are listening?
Yeah, it's just celebrating everything that welcomes dogs in Perth and Kinross. It's the dog friendly cafes, the restaurants, the pubs, the accommodation. It's all the beautiful walks we've got. The scenic Perthshire countryside. It's just celebrating. Your dogs. That's it. Dogs are part of the family, and people want to be able to enjoy every aspect of their daily lives with their dogs and not have to worry that they're going to have to leave them at home. Mm-hmm. They want to spend so much of their lives now with their dogs. Yeah,
they become our alter ego. They're not even our alter ego, they become our shadows, haven't they?
Oh, they do. Yeah. It's if I go someplace without Baxter, I find myself like, like I'm missing something. And if people see me now without Baxter, they're like, where is he? And I think that's for many dog owners. It's just they become such a big part of your daily lives.
How did Baxter come into your life?
Well, my mum his and dad have actually got Baxter's mum and dad. So they had a litter of 5 puppies. So I was very lucky from day one, basically. I've had Baxter in my life.
But there was another story behind that.
Well, it's... Sorry, I've had a complete mind blank. He's just been such a positive little influence in my life. He's helped me in a lot of different ways, just apart from just being a dog and just being a pet.
You shared with me about just a period of your life that wasn't healthy.
Yeah, I've never shied away from the fact that I've suffered mental health issues. I've suffered anxiety, depression, OCD. My mind at times has been in a very dark place, and I would struggle to leave the house. I didn't want to socialise with anybody. I was very withdrawn, and I was someone I think who'd very good at hiding it though. When I did speak to people, I could put the smile on my face, but behind it I was really struggling. And I didn't want to visit places, to be quite honest. I would rather just be my own company. But having Baxter, it was like this new responsibility, and I would have to go for walks with him. And when you've got a dog, everyone wants to speak to you, especially if you've got a little fluffy puppy. And it brought me out my comfort zone in a good way, because I was having dog owners speaking to me, asking questions about Baxter. And I'm not going to lie, at first it was quite uncomfortable, but the more it happened, the more it became comfortable, and the more then I would enjoy going out, because I would see new friends, and Baxter would meet his wee doggy friends, and seeing him happy and socialising made me more happy.
Yeah.
And it just then gave me the courage, bit by bit, to step out my comfort zone. Like before, I wouldn't feel comfortable going in a coffee shop with like my husband, let alone myself. And we just, baby steps over time, that we were able to go in a coffee shop. We were then able to go on a dog-friendly holiday. And I was able just to keep building it bigger and bigger. And, he is not just a dog to me, he's a family member, but in a sense he's been a little bit of security blanket to begin with as well. But he totally has just built my confidence up big time. And I know many, many pet owners feel that. I know definitely their dog having a dog in their life has been so therapeutic for their mental health.
It's an interesting, I think, phenomenon that you read about, that as our culture becomes more isolated and more sort of removed from each other, we struggle to find those meaningful relationships or safe relationships, and I think dogs have become that for us, haven't they?
Oh, they have. It's some people as well. They don't have anyone in their lives apart from maybe their dog or even another pet, and having the dog, it gives them that daily routine. And like you say, it's speaking to other dog owners, and some people may not have that may not have any interaction throughout the day apart from when they go take their dog for a walk. So it's therapeutic and on so many levels, being able to own a dog.
And I guess the nourishing of that dog, the dog sets the rhythm. The dog is forced, needs to go to the toilet, or needs fed, or needs walked, and so therefore you can't hide from that or have an excuse against it.
Yeah, definitely, because if he's needing his walk, you've got to take him for his walk. If he's needing, something from the pet food shop, you need to go out and do it. So it definitely, if you're having a bad day, it does kind of push you out your comfort zone slightly, but in a good way, because like I say, it's just baby steps, and you can just build it up to a point where you can feel more comfortable.
We're hearing sort of the end of the story, the nice bit. What is this anxiety? These issues, were they recent? Are they?
I've had it since quite young, maybe about 10 or 11. I started anxiety, and I missed loads of school from it. I'm not ashamed to admit I came away from school without 3 standard grades, and in some people's eyes they would find that really quite daunting. To come away well, some people would say not a decent education. You know, I didn't go into college, I didn't go into uni, but from where my life is now, I feel really, really happy with it.
Yeah.
To be quite honest, college or uni, school, it just wasn't for me.
Yeah.
So to get into my point of my life now, where I've been able to build up dog-friendly Perthshire, I feel really, really lucky and blessed.
Well, I mean, you mentioned about, I mean, that the cave became deeper and darker, and you were, I mean, how long had you sort of not gone out at one point?
I think at my worst, it's always kind of come and gone in waves. And I think at my worst, when I was in my 20s, when it was quite a bad patch, it was quite easily maybe 4 or 5 months, just completely shut myself off. And I'm quite sometimes it's someone that can like my own company, which isn't the best. Which isn't the best if you're gay.
Yeah, it's not a good format.
Yes, but but I mean, like I say, I'm in a position now where I'm not going to lie, you still get the bad days. I think it's just you learn a way how to cope.
What do you do? What do you do in your bad days now?
To be quite honest, it's going to sound so cheesy, but it's going for a walk with Baxter. It's like sometimes I just need to kind of shut myself off, go away, and we'll go for a walk. We'll go get him a doggy sausage, to be honest. We'll go someplace where there's a big grassy area for him to run around, and that is my kind of therapeutic.
It's a change of perspective, I suppose. If it goes from the me space and my issues and things I'm dealing with to something that you're saying, well, actually, what does this dog need? How can I nurture it, look after it? And in that sort of altruistic space, it helps you as well, because you're not focusing on you then into that. Yeah. I mean, how, for someone listening right now, it's what is this anxiety? What do people feel? Because the reality is most of us are hiding it in some way. You're not noticing. It's not obvious. It's something we don't put out there. But what does it? How does it manifest? What does it make you? Feel or
I think the way that I can describe it is, some people when they get excited, they feel the butterflies in their stomach. I describe it as really intense butterflies.
Yeah.
That is the way that I can describe it, and intense butterflies that can spread all over your body until it's just uncomfortable, and your mind's chaotic. It's like you can't switch off. It's like you've got a constant buzz in your head, and no matter what you do, you can't switch off. So you've got it mentally, you've got it physically, and you're just on edge.
Is it a fear? Is it a?
It's like it can be a fear, but you don't know what you're scared of. I think that's the way I can describe it for me. Everyone, I would never say everyone's anxieties or mental health are quite the same. Everyone's just slightly different in their own way of how they deal, how they cope, and even how they'll describe the feeling. But it's just you'll never feel something quite like it.
Yeah. It must be tough for the people around you as well.
It is, and I can still consider myself one of the lucky ones, because my family throughout the years have been incredibly, incredibly supportive. My husband, he's been amazing throughout the years. I've got lucky that I've got, really, really close friends. And like I say, I always consider myself, I've been one of the lucky ones to have that friends and family network around me that have always been really incredibly understanding. If I'm having a bad day, I can say, I really I'm not having a good day, and I know that they won't judge me at all. I can just openly say I'm struggling just now, and they're just like, okay, you kind of do what you need to do to kind of cope with that.
So someone right now who's got a family member who has anxiety or what would your advice be to them?
Just listen to them and ask them what they need. It's I think at first a lot of people, and it was coming from a very, very good place, don't get me wrong, they didn't know how to cope with my anxiety, they didn't know what was the best for my depression, and they would Google some stuff, and it would be like a checklist almost of what Google was telling you what you should do, and that doesn't always work that way. You know, everyone's different of how they cope with things, so I would just say, you know, have the understanding that everyone copes with it in their own way, and ask what they personally need, you know, to feel like they can cope and get over this spell or get through the rough patch better.
And reality was that Baxter was probably a pure chance thing, was it? And like your husband going.
It was like we obviously knew the family dogs were going to have puppies, and my mum was kind of like, you have one, and I was just like, oh, you know, it was just like, I was like, okay. And then the husband kind of slightly got told we were having one.
Oh, really?
Yes. Yes, Laurie did kind of yeah, we're having one. And yeah, then he just came home, and he's been part of our lives for just over 6 years now.
And was the impact immediate? Did you feel that? Or did that take time? How did that?
In a sense, it was immediate, because we just had this puppy. And while, you know, he was at my mum's for over 8 weeks, you know, before he came home to us, it was all the difficult part of, you know, where you were hearing him kind of, he was still with his litter mates and his mum. So bringing him home, we had to kind of like deal with him, you know, settling through the night, you know, we had to house train him, you know, all these wee steps. So right away, it was kind of like a little bit of a distraction, but in like, you know, a good way. It was tough, but it was a good wee distraction for me right away. Yeah. And we've got cats at home as well. So we've got before we got Baxter, like we've got our cat family, and so we've always been around animals.
We don't take cats for walks, I guess.
Yeah, it's like it's different having a dog, but with having the cats, we still had that element of care, and it was still therapeutic having the cats. I'm a total cat and dog person, but like I say, with having that with Baxter there, you know, cats can be really aloof. You know, they can be. They're
indifferent, aren't you? Yes. They own you.
And, they definitely do. But he definitely right away. It was like I say, tough work having a puppy. Don't get me wrong, but wouldn't change it.
So how does dog friendly come from that? Like what was the inspiration there?
Well, before Dog Friendly Perthshire started up, I've voluntary for 8 years run an organisation called Missing Pets Perth and Kinross.
Oh, okay.
So I've helped missing pets be reunited with their families.
Okay.
And like I say, that was tough at times. Obviously, I was dealing with my own stuff, but yet again, it was a distraction for me trying to help others while I was battling my own stuff. Mm-hmm. It was, like you say, it was difficult, and at times it is still draining, but you know, being able to help someone else, that was almost like it helped me cope more than I realised.
Yeah.
Even though it was tough. But when Baxter came along, right away I was like, okay, this is going to, I've got something positive I can completely kind of focus on, more than the kind of like the tough side of missing pets.
Yeah.
I've got the positive side where I can post about Baxter's and Baxter's adventures, and that can be my outlet.
So was it a blog initially? I mean, is that how it started?
Yeah, it was kind of like we kind of post about where I'd been with Baxter, you know, if we'd visited someplace dog friendly, and then really rapidly it grew.
Was this on Facebook?
Yeah, we just started on Facebook to begin with.
Who's we?
I say
just you and Baxter. Sorry, just in case it was.
Just me and Baxter. And so it grew. Like I say, it grew really, really quickly because people were starting to ask where else was dog friendly. And people are saying, we're coming to, Creef for the day, or we're coming for Pitlochry, do you know any places there? So I was trying to research and get kind of little lists together. And then people are asking, okay, if we're going here for a holiday, do you know where there's walks nearby? So like I say, it really it quickly grew more than I could.
What sort of
can
numbers?
imagine.
Like, what was it?
Well, I think we're at about 21,000 just now. And we have, sometimes on our busy weeks, we have like, when you go on like the Facebook analytics side, we've got about maybe 400,000 hits to the Facebook page alone a week. So
here's a socially anxious person who doesn't like interacting with the world, has 400,000 people that you're connected to.
It's like sometimes when I look
amazing.
into it, when we've had a busy week and I see how many people, we've reached, I'm like,
that's so cool.
Yeah.
That's so powerful and influential.
But
Yeah.
it's just kind of like, it's nice to me seeing like people are seeing Baxter's story, if that makes a sense. It kind of makes me happy if he's making someone happy even just a little bit.
Yeah. This is so cool. And does it get too much?
Not too much nowadays. Sometimes I've been always very honest on missing pets and dog friendly Perthshire. If I'm having a bad day or like a bad week, and like I say, it's just to explain, because I think a lot of people can tell sometimes if if your head's not in the right place or your heart's not right in it, even just over Facebook, if you're typing something, I think some people can tell if it's
the tone.
when your heart's in it, and whether if it's just slightly robotic. So if some days if it's too bad or I just feel that a little bit overwhelmed, I just kind of put a post up and say, look, things are a little bit tough. If I'm not myself, I'm just having a wee bad spell, we'll be back. We'll be back to how we are soon.
Nice.
And everyone's always been very incredibly supportive of that. And and like I say, I'm a believer that you should, if you are struggling, just say it. You shouldn't be scared just to say if you're struggling a wee bit.
What part did Blend play in those early days for you?
Well, Blend was like the first place we came with Baxter. So it was the first dog-friendly coffee shop we came to. And it was the first place I felt confident to kind of come on my own, because we, like say me, Baxter and my husband Laurie, the three of us would come together, and there's just such a nice, relaxed atmosphere, and the staff you get to know really well, and then you always meet regulars as well. So it's some place that to me anyway, there's not that anxiety any time for me to step over the threshold at all.
But you did walk past us for a while, you said.
I didn't know this sounds so bad. I didn't know if you were dog friendly or not. This sounds so bad, but it is 99% of the places we go to, it's like, is it dog friendly?
Yeah,
and if it's not, we don't end up going. It does sound bad, but it is just because he is our wee shadow.
What was important to you? And I'm asking this really because I think there will be other business owners right now listening to this, and they're unsure about dog friendly. We seem to have a strange fear of hygiene or whatever, with dogs and food and anything. I mean, even a shop, and yet, in continental Europe, dogs are everywhere.
Yeah, we are definitely getting a big change in like the past maybe 2-3 years in like Perth alone. There's more and more places that are welcoming dogs, and maybe places which didn't welcome dogs before are seeing like the big impact, the positive impact of welcoming dogs.
We would say, like, we may have lost a few customers, and some people certainly don't like dogs and the dog smell, etc. But I mean, it was a really great sort of boost to us when we became dog friendly, and that really came out of our staff, and they love dogs, and it was actually great therapy for them as well, just to have the dogs and that sort of culture you can create.
Well, there was like research done a few years ago, and it was showing that that dog owners, they're one of the most loyal customers you can have. You'll get repeat business from them. It was saying during the recession, it was one of the only things that didn't go down was like people spending money on their dogs and their pets. And it was another thing. It was like showing that if you work in a dog friendly environment, it boosts like staff morale, and for customers as well. There's more interaction between customers.
Yeah. One of the things I think is what happens with dogs is if you and I were walking across each other in, say, a woodland, as we approach, you would feel anxious about me, and I wouldn't know about you because we would be two strangers in an unknown place, walking past. And I think there's a huge difference. If one of us had a dog, immediately you change your sort of analysis of that person, whether it was you or me. Now, if we both have dogs, I think there's something, it just creates a safe zone between strangers.
It's a complete icebreaker almost at having a dog. We've gone on so many walks where we probably wouldn't speak to someone if they didn't have a dog when they passed, and we found ourselves speaking to so many people, and we've actually made a lot of friendships from it that we wouldn't probably have had if it wasn't for our dogs.
There's almost a psychological safe space they generate in us pets, and I think like it's interesting that when we see customers, you can tell personalities of owners from their dogs, and generally the dogs are better behaved than the owners, most people are quite apologetic about their dogs, if the dog's allowed, etc. But there's almost like this middle ground that's been created in our lives now with dogs, and I've realized that even if you look at health and hygiene legislation, I mean, there's very little that actually doesn't allow us to have animals. No. Pubs for years had a dog lying next to the fireplace.
It's literally just as long as a dog doesn't go in the kitchen
and lick your steak. I mean, it's just almost as
it's as long as they don't go in the kitchen where food is prepped or stored. There is absolutely nothing stopping a dog going in a food establishment, and shops even. There's
What are some great places that you're discovering now through your dog friendly, like you've been to see, and what's good dog culture, good dog friendly culture?
I quite like holiday accommodation. That's my favourite thing just now. We've stayed in some amazing unique places. We've stayed in a converted train. We've stayed at a woodland lodge that overlooked a beaver dam, and just some beautiful cottages in parts of Perthshire. There's just we live someplace we really are spoiled for choice, that you can come on holiday, you can visit dog friendly shops, restaurants, cafes, and then you've got all the beautiful walks. You really are just completely spoiled for choice.
And it matters, isn't it? It's literally, you've come on holiday with your animal, and you're not going to leave it in a chalet somewhere and go, that dog's going to be with you and in a car or wherever. So it is important. We need to realize that. What's the pushback? Like, what have you found that people didn't like about dog friend?
I think at first there was a lot of misinformation about the health and hygiene laws. When I first started up, there wasn't massive resilience, but a lot of people were, like I say, was misinformed. They thought point blank if there was somewhere that served food, a dog wasn't allowed in. So there was that, and I think as well they thought, they're going to be barky, they're going to be hairy, people are going to come in with smelly wet dogs, but you don't want to be the owner that's known as having the barky dog.
Exactly.
I would have to say that 99.9% of dog owners I've come across are extremely responsible. If they know that their dog is in some way not going to be comfortable going in somewhere that's dog friendly, if their dog is barky or even just is uncomfortable around other dogs, they won't bring them in there.
And actually, people it changed. Dogs are pack animals, so they actually respond to well-behaved dogs as well. So even the barkiest dog coming in finds its sort of space, and then realizes that all like 6 other dogs are sitting comfortably, and calms them down as well. So it's actually good training for that. No. COVID. How was COVID for you?
It was strange. It was kind of like at the very start, we had to cancel our first event because it was happening a few weeks after lockdown.
So let's backtrack. Talk about these events. Like you organise quite a few events.
Yeah, we've got quite a various ones. We've done Pups in the pub, where it's we go for like a group dog walk, and then we go for a pint or a soft drink or a pint with our dogs. We've done Pooches at the Playhouse, which is dog-friendly cinema screenings with Perth Cinema. I'm trying to think. We did Puppies and Prosecco, which was our launch party for dog-friendly Perthshire. So we had like a little celebratory launch party with, like I say, with Prosecco with our dogs and a few doggy stalls.
You're organising all these? Have you got a team?
We've done some ourselves, and then we kind of collaborate as well. So I'm trying to think what else. We've done our Barket, which is a market market just for dogs. So we've done that with the Yard, which is based down at Shore Road. And our biggest one so far, which we teamed up with Scone Palace last year, was Paws at the Palace, which is the kind of the biggest outdoor event, especially for dogs in Scotland.
So what sort of stuff happens there? This is ideas for other people.
Yeah, well, Paws at the Palace, it was like a large selection of doggy stalls. We had agility for dogs. We had a doggy fun show. We had, I'm trying to think, we had a dog parade. So yeah, it was solely aimed as a dog's day out. So the best day out you could have.
Dog's day out, I like
so,
that.
Yeah, so it was completely aimed for people. You know, every stall was in some way dog related. So
so you're not trying to do crufts. You're just sort of saying this, bring your pooch and have fun.
Yeah, it was lovely, and it was such a laid back day. And we had dogs like from little sausage dogs up to German Shepherds, to Dalmatians, to Newfoundlands. So it was dogs of all, all sizes, all breeds.
And you had a dog week. I'm trying to remember what it was called.
Yes, it was the run up to Paws at the Palace. So we had like a different doggy event every day. So we had the Craig Cantwell, who was the photographer. We came up here and we came to Blend, and we had the pop-up doggy studio where we had the wee photo shoot with dogs.
That was so popular. I mean, I think you could do that for weeks and sell out.
That sold out within as soon as we announced the opening slots, that sold out within about 15 minutes. 15 minutes to half an hour, and that was it. All the spaces were gone.
Converted a part of Blend, made it a dog studio.
And it works.
Craig's so talented anyway.
He's amazing. He's so nice, and he does so much for doggy charities. He really does. He's got a heart of gold, and he just knows how to capture a dog's personality.
What's his name, just so that people can know?
Craig Cantwell Photography.
Craig Cantwell.
Yeah.
Okay.
And he can do studio shoots, or where he lives is the most beautiful set, and he's got loads of acres of land, so he can do like outdoor shoots with your dog as well. And nice. It's amazing.
Great. No, this is cool. So what's let's go back to COVID then. What happened?
So
what was COVID for you?
It was, we were kind of like watching the news, and we could kind of see obviously what was happening in Europe, where it was obviously going to come, to the UK next. So we made the decision, maybe a few weeks before lockdown, that we were going to cancel our first event, the Barket, which we were gutted about, because our last one was at Christmas, but we knew it was a sensible thing to do. And then as times went on, it was our Paws at the Palace with Scone Palace, which sadly has had to be postponed now. So at first it was very much like, it is almost like it is what it is. I can't change anything, so I've just got to almost accept it. But it's only maybe been the past month to 6 weeks that I've kind of felt that little bit of slump. It's more towards the end for me, because I think last summer was just amazing for all our events. I love meeting dog owners. I love meeting their dogs. It's such a really nice social gathering for us. And I think when it hit me, let's say just a few months back, I was like, we're coming up for the end of summer and we've not done, all our usual things. I think that's for me, it kind of hit me, and I had that little bit of a, that disappointing slump.
Sort of having to accept that it wasn't possible. So
yeah, but
But what were your takeaways now? What are you going to come? As we come back to a normality, what have you learned in COVID that you want to bring back I
think it's nice seeing how many people still come together. we've not been able to socialise in the way which we have. But I did notice, from the posts I put up with going away just for our walks with Baxter, because that's all we could really do during COVID, was that you still had so many people checking in on one another, asking how they were doing, when they were just and they were saying what their dogs had been up to, with how they were coping. And it was just nice, while we couldn't see each other in person, we were still all communicating online.
There was a community, an online community.
There was such a lovely community. I've got a lot of close friends that I've met in person through Dog Friendly, and then there's people online that I've not met, but they're regulars who always check in and ask how I'm doing, ask how Baxter's doing, and they're so sweet and lovely. And they've commented and liked and interact stuff for years, so it's like I do know them.
I can't think of many things that it's we always think of social media as a sort of negative thing. We tone it as a negative thing, but the idea that 21,000 people are connecting with each other as strangers, with the safety barrier of an animal that's very close to them. It's actually it's sort of the new world that we'll go into. I mean, it's almost like we've got to start thinking that our collectives aren't just made up of towns or spaces, high streets. We're talking about the high streets dying, but actually, you're probably one of the most influential, powerful people in Perth at this moment. 400,000 people. It's like how people have got to recognize the power of these social and gathering and connection spaces.
Yeah. It's when you say it like that, it just still seems so surreal for me. It just sometimes just feels like it's a little bit of a daydream. When people say to me, "Oh, you've got this amount of followers, the reach that you have," I'm like, "Oh yeah,
you do.
It's quite a few."
And I think that this is why I wanted you on this podcast, because I think you brought this about from a cave, a place of darkness, a place of huge negativity that people may be finding themselves in at this point, where and it's not to say everyone's got to be as successful as you, but it's just that it's looking for these opportunities, the little sort of string that's going to take you out of your cave, out of that mental health space.
I've been very lucky. Like I say, I've always thanked the people who support the page and follow Baxter. Absolutely every single one of them has been involved into the point that I've been able to reach now. Absolutely every one of them, and I'm so thankful for that, because every way they've
you've
been part
interacted
of the journey.
The 21,000 people.
They all. I don't know them personally, but I always believe that they have been part of helping me where I get today. Yeah. They've always some way and liked the page. They've interacted the page. They've come to our events. They've sent lovely messages to me. Asked how Baxter's doing, and it's all impacted to the place where I've been able to get to today.
It's inspiring. So thank you. If someone gave you £1 million today for something that you can invest in that you think is needed, where would you put that?
Just because I love animals, I'd definitely, half would have to go to an animal charity of sorts. Cats and dogs, I'd have to invest. I've always said if I had the money, I'd want to do, I don't know quite what, but I would want to help it to a charity to give them a bit of a boost. And definitely the other half would be towards mental health. It's as much as, like I say, I was lucky I got the support from family and from doctors. I still feel that there's just in some areas still we're just slight failings. Some people struggle. There's long waiting lists, and there is don't get me wrong, there's fantastic groups now. There's fantastic local groups. You've got like Andy's Man Club and Women's Well-Being Club, Samaritans. But I would really just want to try and invest in some place like that, because they do fantastic work, yet more and more people are needing help. They definitely are, and just to give them that extra money to invest to be able to help their resources.
What did it take to set up Dog Friendly for you?
It was literally,
Financially or anything, you know?
It just started with a Facebook page.
Yeah.
It literally started with a Facebook page, and then to get the website launched, I had some help from my mum just for the investment side of that, for building the website. And then, like say, we took the decision to launch it into a business by obviously people paying for an advertising space on the website, which would then go over to Facebook, that we could obviously blog and publicise more of what they did. So yeah, it seems, like I say, I know I keep using the word, but it's really surreal talking about it, to where it's gone from just starting on a Facebook page, that I can say that I've gotten my own wee business, and like I say, especially because I left school with
nothing.
Well,
supposedly nothing, but you know,
it's to many people's eyes, I left school with nothing that would get me, into a job, and I find it surreal and just unbelievable to say that I'm self-employed. That I've got my own wee business, and that it's doing with something that I really, really do love.
How can people get in touch with you? Obviously,
we've got our Facebook page, which is Dog Friendly Perthshire. We've got our website as well, which is Dog Friendly Perthshire. And if you go on either
.org, .com, .co,
dogfriendlyperthshire.co.uk. So and if you need, we've got my email address and a contact telephone number on there as well, if you want to find out more.
Well, Katie, this has been really good, and I've just enjoyed hearing your story and just realising how inspirational it is. We realise, having opened this place, that mental health is such a big issue in our communities, but yours is a story of just hope and possibility, that it isn't about ignoring what's there, but knowing that there are still opportunities in those dark places that can not just help you, but help so many others.
It's just, I think people just know you're not alone. Know you're not alone. It's, everyone is fighting some type of battle, I think, and you just got to just have that little bit of courage, just to say that you're struggling, because the support is there. There's so many people, even if you don't realise it, that will rally around you to help you if needed.
And they are, yeah. Well, Katie, thank you for this.
Thank you for having me.
Really appreciate your time. And Baxter, gosh, you have been fabulously sitting there quietly, enjoying his treats. So go and check out the site, go get to see Baxter, and get in touch with Katie.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you. If you've enjoyed this chat and would like to maybe join us, or you know someone who's got an interesting story to share, get in touch. podcast@blendcoffee.co.uk. Well, traveller, till next time. So Katie, when you're ready, tell your joke.
What do you call a dog that's into magic?
What do you call a dog that's into magic?
A Labrador. I told you it was bad.
Cheerio.